I wanted to start this session out with a quote by a poet and playwright whose name is Bertolt Brecht. He said, "The most important thing in communication is to hear what isn't being said." Wow. Now, to me, that's kind of an odd thing to say because several years ago I took the Strength Finders assessment, and one of my top 5 strengths is communication by story. Could you tell? I love to communicate by story because it helps me to connect to the person I'm talking to and vice versa. But it also has a weakness. Its weakness is that sometimes I really don't listen. I'm not hearing what isn't being said. I'm just so excited to get my story out so that I can connect with person so they know they're not alone that I forget to listen. Let me explain. When my daughter, Laura, wrote me a very long email about her sexual identity, I thought I had the whole thing figured out. I wrote back, and I said things like, and I did what I did, I communicated by story. And I said things like, well, you know, when I was growing up, I kind of felt like a boy. There were times, you know, and this, that, and the other thing. And I'm trying to tell her, I'm trying to connect to her so that she understands that, well, I was probably trying to tell her it was all in her head without realizing it. She responded in a very unexpected way. She was so angry. I was shocked. Why are you angry? I had to kind of take a step back and think about what she was trying to say. So she responded and she said, "You always make everything about yourself." And then in a little bit of her New York accent, she said, "I'm trying to tell you something here. I'm walking here, I'm talking here. I'm trying to say something." And it hit me. I was shocked. I was really shocked. And besides that, I felt really horrible because it literally took her like 6 months to pen out a couple of paragraphs to tell me she was a lesbian. And I ignored it. I didn't read between the lines. It took some time for us to open back up the relationship. She's very forgiving, and I was humbly coming back to her saying, "I'm so sorry that I didn't listen." But now he feels safe. His pronouns are he, him. He changed his name to Noah. He got married. He had top surgery, and he's partially transgender male now. I love him so much. He is one of the most amazing people that I know. His heart is so big, and if he just knew Jesus, I'd be so happy. But that's not where he's at right now. One of the good things that I know about God is that he is a great listener. He can read between the lines. He has all the strengths that are found in the Strength Finder assessment and others that we don't even realize. And he loves to communicate with us. He is great at communicating by story like me. Hey, just read the Bible. Check out the Old Testament. You know how many really cool and actually some really weird stories are in there? It's drama. It's amazing drama. Just checking out the way that God hears us. First, he searches our hearts, and he looks and sees what's on our mind. So if there's any steps to how God hears us, that's the first one. He searches our heart. In our psalm today, twice David asked God to search his heart. First at the beginning in verse 1, and lastly in verse 23. And David desperately wanted a deeper connection to God. Why else would he willingly bookend this psalm with his heart? In verse 1, David acknowledges that God has already searched his heart. In fact, in the contemporary English version, it reads, "You have looked deeply into my heart." When I think about the depths of my heart, I think about all those dark, tarry places that still need his divine touch for healing. And when I really think about God's desire for those places to be renewed and repaired, I realize he hears the cries of those places, begging for revelation and restoration before I speak a word. He hears me. My heart is me. It is the wellspring of life itself. Think about it. We don't have life unless we have a beating heart. And we all have a beating heart sitting right here, girls. We focus on verse 1 during the first session, God sees me, but it continues as part of God hearing us as well, because God hears us through our hearts. This is a little bit of a different concept. He hears us through our hearts and our minds. According to David, everything about us in this psalm is sandwiched between the heart and God hearing it speak. You searched me and know me. Please search me and show me. That's what David said. David is thanking God that he sees and hears him. But also in verse 23, we read in his desperate cry for God to perceive his thoughts and know everything that is on his mind in the truth zone known as the heart. There are times in our lives when we think God doesn't hear us because we have moved away from him. It's one of the saddest things to me. We try to live our lives on our own. We try to figure things out. We try to budget our own money. We try to do all the things that we think are the right things in order to live our lives, especially post-COVID. Post-COVID has been hell, ladies. I'm sure you all feel it. And I know I do. My pocketbook feels it. My brain feels it. The stress feels it. Somewhere in the back of our minds, we believe that God cannot hear us, but he does so much more than that. He senses us. He senses us because he is the creator and we are the created. He knows everything about us. We are connected to God, heart to heart. Heart to heart. And this heart connection reminds me of my best friend, John. John and I met in a Christian school. And we would go back and forth on the bus to the school. It was pretty far away, but he didn't live that far away from me. You can see me there. My first one there. That's little old me in like 5th grade. John and I had a really great relationship that we built. And I would go to his parents' house. I'd ride my bike down there. It wasn't that far. And I'd spend a lot of time there, and I'd get a lot of the love I felt I wasn't getting in my own home. I got it there. John and I, we grew. We became even stronger, close friends. He got married. I got married. We went our separate ways, but we always knew what each other was doing. Always. I finally entered the Navy, and he went into the Coast Guard. And so we kind of had that connection as well, like a military connection. But I hadn't talked to him in such a long time, and when I first got to NAS Barbers Point in Hawaii, don't hate me. Somebody had to do it, and it was me. Well, I got really sick. And I had some very serious bladder problems that put me in the hospital at Tripler Army Hospital. And nobody really knew I was there. My boss knew, but like my barracks mate, she didn't know. My coworkers, they didn't know. Nobody really knew that I was there. Well, one day, I'm having a really hard time. And it's during Thanksgiving and Christmas, and I'm from Buffalo, New York, so that's pretty far away from my home. Nurse comes into my area and she says, "Oh, you got a phone call." I'm like, what? And she said, "Yeah, you got a phone call." Oh, okay, so I'm thinking, well, okay, who could it be since nobody really knows I'm here? Well, I get on the phone and it's John. John. I'm like, I start bawling. I said, "How did you find me?" He said, "Well, I felt like there was something wrong. I could feel it in my heart that there was something wrong with you." And he said, "I called your parents who gave me the number at your barracks, and then I called your barracks, and they said they thought you were in the hospital, and the only hospital I thought you might be in was this one, and then I called here, and blah, 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 blah." He found me. The reason why he found me is because we were connected heart to heart. I'm sure you have friends and family just like that, where you're connected heart to heart. You can feel in your gut there's something wrong, and you reach out to them. That's how our connection to God works too, but on a much deeper level. God sees our need, yes, but he hears the cry of our heart no matter how far we are from him. We can't be far from him. Creator created, remember? Heart to heart, remember? He never leaves us. He never forsakes us. Geographically or emotionally or spiritual distance makes no difference to God. None. You are connected to God heart to heart. Girls, if you grasp anything today, grasp that. Because in your loneliest times, in your darkest times, you're going to find yourself sitting down and remembering, oh yeah, Debbie Mama said, I'm connected heart to God. He knows I'm here. He knows what I'm going through. He knows more than I know about myself. I can rest in his arms. It's hard sometimes for us to reach out to God. It's hard for us to even imagine coming into the presence of the Lord. It's at the most intimate level where we can share our deepest secrets with God when we come into his presence. And A.W. Tozer said, thirsty hearts are those whose longings have been wakened by the touch of God within them. Drawing nearer to God, to the heart of God, allows your longing to him to be awakened. Come back. Come back. The worst thing that happens is when we walk away from God, when we forget that he's there, because there's just so much to do and there's so many people to talk to and the drudgery of this and the heaviness of this and the oppression of that. You know, I feel it, girls, I know exactly what you're talking about. And the second problem is when we store our hearts in an ironclad prison to protect ourselves because something really horrible happened and we don't want to get hurt again. You store your heart under lock and key and you feel a false sense of safety, which isn't reality. I'm not sure that the stress of surviving day to day that you feel restless, you feel tired, vulnerable. That's why you try to hide your heart. But it just isn't possible to hide from God because he has searched your heart. He hears everything on your mind. You don't have to speak a word. In the second half of verse 23, David said, you find out everything I am thinking. Whew. Yikes. But as I said in the beginning of this session, first he asked God to look deep into his heart. There's like an 8-inch connection between here and here. And you know how hard it is to get what's here into here and then vice versa? Lifetime. I need a ladder. I want a special little ladder, you know, where thoughts and hearts and, you know, but I don't have that. Well, I do. It's called Jesus. Jesus can be that ladder. He can help us to remember, to store things in our hearts, to gather all that information and make it real. But it's hard for him to do that when our heart is surrounded by iron. The CEV translation of verse 23 says, you find out, which indicates nothing can be hidden from God, even though we try really, really hard. So what is your heart saying about you? What negative thoughts control you day and night? Sometimes the thoughts exit through your mouth. Oh, Debbie, you're so stupid. Oh, why did you do that? I don't like the name Deb. And for years, when I was berating myself, I would call myself Deb. And I didn't even know I was doing it. And my husband says, every time you're calling yourself stupid, you call yourself Deb, it sounds like your mom coming out of your mouth. Like, oh, yikes. My mom was critical. So I'm critical. I was critical. Sometimes it's between the heart and the mouth where we can gain control of whatever we say about ourselves. Gaining control over your mouth. I hear people laughing. Woo! I'm meddling now. I'm getting right in there. It starts at the heart. It forms in your thoughts, and it comes out of your mouth. It's very difficult to stop that from happening when you don't recognize it. Faith in God is the power to break that. It's not by sheer willpower. You can't just stop doing that. But when you recognize, oh, I'm saying, Deb, you're an idiot, first thing I have to realize is I'm saying it. It's like coming out of denial, like Celebrate Recovery, first step. Coming out of denial. And when that happens, then you recognize you're saying it. And you can start stopping saying it, even though you might still feel it. That's okay. It's a work in progress. We're all a work in progress. It takes time. But faith in God, who hears your heart, exchanges your negative self-speak into positive dialogue. It's a wonderful transformation. It takes time. But I know all y'all can do it. All y'all can do it. See, even when nice things don't come out of our mouths, like when we're driving on 98, I think everybody's from here, so you understand. See, God doesn't stop listening to you. It's your faith and trust in Him that allows Him to gain access to your heart, even with the iron surrounding it. When you try to run away, attempts to hide your heart are fruitless because your loving Father is everywhere, all the time, even responding to your wishes. And I had a time in my life when I wished I had a different life. When I was growing up, my siblings, I have 3 of them, and I think there they are. Can you see me on the second one from the left? With the cute little grin. Well, as we grew older, they didn't treat me very kindly. The 3 words that they used all the time and yelled at me was dog, ugly, stupid. So I heard that all the time. And it didn't get stopped by my parents because I didn't cry. But as soon as I cried, my dad would be like, oh, Bill, don't say that. So I grew up with this thought, this belief, a huge lie that I was a dog, that I was stupid and ugly. It was a terrible thing to grow up with. As I matured, those words just stuck in there. So I didn't attempt to do anything, right? I didn't think I was smart enough to go to college. I got out of high school early. I graduated, but I got out early because I hated it. And so all of those words just kept ringing around and around like a racetrack in my mind. Finally, one day, I got an opportunity to attend college. I was 29 years old. And I didn't think I could do it. There was no way. But I signed up and I got into the classes, and my first class was algebra, and I didn't have to take algebra in school in the 80s. I also didn't have to take biology, which is another one that I had to take. So I took algebra and I got A's and A's and A's, and I started tutoring kids in algebra. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. And then I went into biology. I didn't want to do biology. It just was ick to me. But I got in there and I started learning about stuff that just really was so cool. I learned about mitochondrial DNA, and that's like the activity guy. That's the one that's in our DNA that keeps us active. I still remember that. That was a long time ago. But I learned something. I learned a hidden secret that I was smart. God broke the lie for me. I never knew I was smart because my family convinced me I was dog ugly stupid. They convinced me. Listen, my wish came true. I realized that God had another plan for my life and He turned it around. He had the key that I was looking for. I was at the beginning of a new life because God broke me free from the negative self-talk. It was His plan. And it wasn't because He said it to me. It's because He proved it to me. There was activity that I did that God brought about so I could learn the truth. I didn't have to speak a word before God responded to my situation and proved that I am smart. Yeah, just like all y'all. All y'all. You got something that's a negative self-speak that you've said to yourself over and over and over, and it's time for it to be broken. Well, see, that's what I call the wish exchange. Now, if you want to learn more about the wish exchange, you can go to my website, debbiebirdsell.com. I have a blog there, and I have the wish exchange written in a blog. Also, though, in another conference, I want to talk about it in more depth with you. So keep your eyes open on the NUMC newsletter. Join that, and you'll know when the next conference is. Our God is a good, good Father. Chris Tomlin says, we are loved by Him. That's who we are. That's who we are. God gives us good gifts because He loves us. And those gifts come from our silent thoughts, our wishes. And most of us have an Amazon wish list or two. Yeah. I see people raising their hands. We're interactive. Remember, girls? We're interactive. There we go. And you know what it's for. It's an avenue for friends and family to take a look and see, what you've got going on and buy something special for you or for Christmas or your birthday. Well, here's the thing. We don't have to create an actual list for God to give us a gift that He knows we need and want. I love that about Him because God hears what is unspoken and responds lovingly. Oh, I'm just so in love with Him. Aren't you? Yeah. Amen. Before you ever spoke a word, dear friend, God heard you. He heard your thoughts. You never have to speak a word in order for God to hear you perfectly. For Him, it's more than just knowing. It's hearing. It's listening. Attentive listening. It is a place of peace that we find ourselves when we realize God hears our thoughts before they even exit our lips. All the good and all the bad. Because in this knowledge we feel the love of God. Our thoughts are never hidden from Him. Oh, and He never, ever rejects us, even when we're off base. Phew. My thoughts, they're awful. I'm confessing right now. My thoughts are awful. I always believed that my thought life would ruin me because it just doesn't stop going. I mean, seriously, aren't our thoughts disgusting sometimes? Yeah. I hear you, girls. How many times have you thought wrongly about another human being that you see or encounter? For me, it's too many to count. God's working on me. He's working on me because I want to love people the way that He loves people. Wouldn't it be awful if God judged us like that? Wouldn't it be terrible if the Creator would treat His created like that? Why do we treat people like that? God doesn't treat them like that either. I've got really great news, though. He never thinks negatively about you. Never. He doesn't think badly. Now, is He sad? I think so. I think He's sad. He doesn't want your mind to go in that direction, but He doesn't leave you. He's not disappointed. He's right here with you. I love the sweetness in what King David writes. He says, "You know what I'm going to say, even before I say it, Lord. You go before me and follow me. You place your hand of blessing on my head. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, too great for me to understand." The theme of these verses is that because God knows what you're going to say, you don't even need to speak a word. He reads your thoughts. He protects you no matter what you're thinking, even handing out blessings. So even my terrible thought life, God is still blessing me. Why do I deserve that? Because God is a good, good Father. I am loved by him. That's who I am. That's you too. No matter our thought life, the sheer knowledge of his love is far too great for us to comprehend. And maybe this concept will change your life. Maybe it'll change your prayer life too. Take a walk with me down Communication Street for a second, would you? Communication is a two-way street, right? It's a dialogue between two people. So prayer is our communication with God. We have a dialogue with him. Generally, people who pray, they ask their requests, they might say some praises, and then they're done. Now, I'm not pointing any fingers. I'm going to point all up in here so y'all don't think I'm pointing at you or looking at you. But that's not exactly the right way to pray. We don't give God an inch to say something into our hearts. We don't give him any time to speak into our hearts so that he can show us our hurt. He can help us with the changes. He is the one who wants to come to you. We have to let him. When we come to God in silence, it's so hard, I know, to sit there quietly. But when we do that, we give God access to hear our thoughts, search our hearts, encourage us, and speak words of love into spaces that are broken and hurting. It's his time to shine. It's his time to reveal himself to you, to manifest his presence to you. Each one of you. He has attentive ears at all times. The influential theologian, Pastor David Osberger, once said this: "Being heard is so close to being loved that for the average person, they are almost indistinguishable." Let me say that again. Being heard is so close to being loved that for the average person, they are almost indistinguishable. God hears you. God loves you. It's all simultaneous. Let me close this session by giving you a blessing. Please close your eyes. Beloved one, I call your spirit to hear God's blessing for you today. You are in God's waiting room, anticipating and expecting, learning to hope. Spirit, I bless you with knowing your Father's ears are listening to the thoughts of those who hope. He rewards those who hope in him. I bless you with a strong sense of standing on a solid rock of God's faithfulness and timing, trusting that he is working behind the scenes to answer your unspoken wish. I bless you with unshakable confidence that your Father is in charge of your circumstances. I bless you with faithfulness and fruitfulness in circumstances that look hopeless. I bless you with unshakable hope when everything else is shaken. I bless you in the name of Elohe Haktivah, the God of hope. Amen.